Hey, Steve Magnante here at High-Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with a 2010 Mustang Shelby GT500 convertible. In 2010, there were something like 3,500 coupe GT500s built, but only 906 convertibles like this one. These were all built by Ford's Flat Rock, Michigan plant, and basically Shelby had nothing to do with these except for blessing them and collecting royalty checks on these cars. They were not built at Shelby's facilities as they were back in 1967 when the GT500 made its debut, but in 2005 when the S197 Mustang arrived on the scene, it was a perfect candidate for a Shelby transformation. And this 2010 again is one of 906 cars built. Now some major changes have been made on this one. It has the big Shelby disc brakes up front, Brembos up front I should say, bigger discs in the back, and aftermarket wheels by Fixie. Good name in wheels. These are 17-inch wheels with Mickey Thompson Pro Comp street tires on the front and some sticky drag radials, if you will, in the back. But something that's different on this one is inside. While all the standard GT500s had a 6-speed manual transmission, this also has a 6-speed, but it's a Ford 6R80 right there. It's an automatic transmission that was added when this car was bolstered and fortified under the hood. Why have an automatic with something of this much power? Well, with a stick shift, you better be a pretty good stick jockey in order to have a good trip down the drag strip. So the automatic 6R80, which is a heavy-duty Ford transmission, it's not a GM mutation. It's all Ford stuff. But again, this is a breathed-upon 5.4. It's not a stock 500 horsepower 5.4 valve camera motor. So let's take a look under the hood and see exactly what's been done to warrant the installation of an automatic transmission behind that engine. And before I open this hood, let's remember that the S197 Mustang was built between 2005 and 2014, but for 2010, Ford gave it a facelift, which included a more aerodynamic nose, and of course an aluminum hood on all of them. And of course the GT500s had this sort of air extractor here, which helped to prevent nose lift at higher speeds. The air would come out rather than get trapped and lift the front of the car, not off the road, but just to unlift the suspension or unload the suspension. So basically, under this hood here, we'll have 5.4 liters of Ford dual overhead cam power. Okay, and here is the prop rod. And again, the new nose for 2010 on display here, but more importantly, you can see the Whipple name on the top of that supercharger. It's a 4-liter supercharger, whereas the standard GT500 had a 2300 series Eaton supercharger, which is maybe 20% smaller than this. So the bigger the blower, the more pressure you can make and boost you can have. And this one makes about 800 horsepower at the rear tires, verified and bona fide, and the real deal. Here's the belt right here, which spins the scroll supercharger inside the blower, which basically makes the boost that causes this 5.4 to behave like a 7.4 with the boost and full boogie. And again, 500 horsepower standard, about 800 horsepower here. Now keep in mind, that 800 horsepower engine plowing through a 6-speed manual transmission, you might have a tiger by the tail unless you are really good with a stick shift and have good traction. So the automatic kind of reduces the amount of trouble you might get into in a hard launch at the drag strips. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, it's a Ford transmission, the 6R80, a heavy-duty transmission, nothing wrong with that. Shift kit inside, and that's the story on the engine and transmission. Now, the rear suspension on the S197 still had a live axle, 8.8, and it was the last of the Mustangs without independent rear suspension, which arrived with the S550 in 2015. For better or worse, better handling, but the rear suspension can be more delicate with big power. So this is the final year for the solid axle under the back seat of all Mustangs. The S197 family is the last solid axle Mustang of the bunch. Now inside this one we see some goodies here. There's a bolt-in roll bar right here. And if you go to the drag strip, they're going to want to see this, especially in a convertible. With that said, it'll keep your noggin safe if you have a tumble. Not that you're going to bank on something like that, but inside leather seats, buckets of course. Beautiful inside. Nice looking car in red, 160 mile-an-hour speedometer. I dare say that if you were on a closed circuit, you might get pretty close to 160 in this car. Just a great car with the top down or top up. What a fun car to cruise around in. And again, this is a GT500, and again, this is the mightiest of the Shelby Mustangs. Of course, the King Cobra, or the Super Snake, excuse me, was also something Ford made with something like 800 horsepower, but not quite as much as this one makes. So, and those were only 6-speed manuals, so if you can't drive a clutch, you're not looking for a Mustang King Cobra or any Mustang with that much power. The clutch pedal is a real workout, but this one with the automatic transmission, put it in drive, lay rubber, and probably run some low 10-second quarter miles of the drag strip with slicks in place. So that's the story of this 2010 Mustang GT500 convertible, one of only 906 convertibles built in 2010, all of them by Ford's Flat Rock, Michigan plant on the assembly line, not by Shelby in Las Vegas. But with that said, this is brought in-house by Ford and fine-tuned, and what a fun car to explore. To learn more about this mighty red Mustang, go to the High-Octane Classics website.